Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Suit Breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at the GAT-X102 Duel Gundam with the Assault Shroud pack, piloted by Isaac Jewell. The Duel is one of those suits that I didn't really have a big taste for in this game until I really began to practice it for the Suit Breakdown, and I absolutely adore the Duel now. It has some really fun mix-ups that I'm going to show off here, some really nice options, and it also has one of my favorite form shifts in this entire game. So you've already seen standard melee that I showed first, and then I'll show you again there. You've also seen back melee, which is this big spin, which does pretty nice damage. As you can see, the Duel is very, very good in melee. Definitely recommend staying on top of your opponent as much as possible. It has this amazing kick combo that is kind of short range, but can really capitalize if you can get in there, because it does some good damage and results in a down. And then finally, you have the forward melee. I thought I got around him to be able to show off, which is this one here, which is really good. As you can see, I added in the little dodge there. I recommend doing that as much as possible when you are capitalizing on your melees. From there, you have your basic shot, which is pretty good. It does basic damage, you know. If you charge it up, you get a full shot that you could not see there because I was inside geometry. Yep, from the Scylla cannon, which not a Scylla, it's got a different name. The shoulder cannon, I'm trying to remember what it's called now. Probably not important right now. You also have missiles that you can fire out, which are pretty good. They will not recharge until you fire them all, so you might as well fire out your salvo. And then you have the striker, which also fires the shoulder cannon. As you can see, shoulder cannon does quite a bit of damage as well. You then have what, in my opinion, is one of the coolest little features on the Duel, which is this charge. You have hyper armor during the charge. I messed it up there, so you won't get to see it, but we'll go ahead and show off the burst. With the burst, you bring in the buster, and you begin to use the cannon. It's really good as you power the cannon. You can move it. It's a fully charged, like, movable Garobi. The problem is you also can be knocked out of it, so you need to be aware of when you're using it. I'm not done showing off this mode before we show off the other mode. But you have this hyper armor charge that you can come out of and discard the Striker Pack, the Assault Shroud, as you do so, which then allows you to go into Standard Duel mode. Standard Duel has an entirely different moveset when it comes to your ranged options. You have that shot that has some really good tracking with that missile. Your basic shot can no longer be charged up, and then you no longer have the shoulder cannon either. You can switch to this at any time with left trigger, just very easily there. The right trigger, you fire that nice little shot there. That is, of course, a reference to the anime when the Duel, when Isaac sacrifices the assault pack to be able to really get in on top of his enemy and destroy them. That was the forward melee there. Melees do not change that much when you change between the Assault Shroud and the Standard Duel, but they are faster on the Standard Duel. I will show the rest of those off in the second half of this match. And of course, the question then that we have to ask is, should you use the Duel? Having played around with it some more, I think absolutely you should. It doesn't do as much damage as I would like with a lot of the attacks, but for 300, the sheer amount of versatility that it has for melee and for mid-range is absolutely amazing. It doesn't really have much for long range, but what you can do between the two packs, between the Shroud and without the Shroud, and the various different abilities that it has because of those, I think is definitely worth it. As you can see, forward melee has a stun there, which is pretty nice. Back melee now goes higher and hits more times, which is very nice. He will show off side melee once he gets up. Side melee now is just like forward melee. And then basic melee is very, very nice. That's also, for clarification, the one that you will do coming out of this charge that we will show off here, hopefully this time correctly. You do have hyper armor on the charge, which is pretty nice. You can also just immediately summon it back. I think the Duel is very good for 1v1s. I think it's even better for 2v2s or 3v3s. The Duel is definitely worth playing around with if you have not done so before. I think it's one of those suits that just has an answer for almost everything. It does not have a dedicated stun that you can just fire off. You have to do it as part of your melee. But it's another reason why I recommend that you just be in melee at all times with the Duel. There's not really any reason not to. And as you can see, the Duel definitely makes up for it when it comes to melee capabilities. I've seen some people that aren't a big fan of the burst. I messed that up. I think it's pretty good. I like it. It's very different and gives you a long-range option you didn't have before. All that said, though, it's not especially useful if your opponents know they can knock you out of it, because you really need to hit with it or you're going to be subjected to some unfortunate sniping. Oh, man. I should have sidestepped that. I knew better. I knew better. I really like the Duel, and I think it's definitely worth your time. If you are looking for a good close-range unit that has some good mid-range options, being able to just do this, followed by this. You can use that hyper armor charge to really just get in on your opponent when you might not have been able to otherwise. Let's see if we can finish him off here with a burst. He's just so low. And as you can tell, you can get knocked out of it. It's why a lot of people just don't use the burst, and instead use it just to escape attacks and then capitalize with melee. But, with all that said, I have been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that the Duel Gundam has to offer.